Okay, thank you. So I'll call the executive committee meeting on February 8th to order at 10:02 a.m. Beth, will you please do the roll call?
Davis. Filter. Here. Leffler.
Here.
McNulty.
Here.
Rosenthal.
Here.
Shepherd.
Here.
And Smith.
Here. Thank you,
For
Beth.
CCS. I'll just note for CCS, we have Rebecca Malinowski, Deborah Wishmeyer, and Beth Stoneburn.
Perfect. Any additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll open it for public comment. Seeing none, we'll move forward with the consent agenda. As noted, would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move to accept the consent agenda.
This is Jeannie. I'll second.
Thank you, Jeannie. Okay, anyone need anything removed from the consent agenda? If not, we'll move forward with the vote. Seeing none, Beth, please take us through it.
Davis. Filter.
Yes.
Leffler.
Yes.
McNulty.
Yes.
Rosenthal.
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
You. Motion carries. Okay, on to business. For the office move, we'll turn it over to Rebecca for an update.
Yes, what an exciting day for everyone. So I sent the lease ahead of the packet, and then we sent the final execution copy, which again was the same for switching some headers that were wrong in a table in Exhibit C, as well as a summary of the conversations that we had with the attorney. So I'm happy to take questions on anything from that memo or the information we've provided along the way, or the lease itself. As noted in the memo, it is a rather one-sided document in terms of like the landlord's rights to remedies if, we go off the rails and stop paying our rent, or, damage the building or anything like that. But per the real estate agent, it's pretty standard language in the contracts that he's seen, both with this building and other tenants, as well as in the field in general in the commercial market. So we would request an approval to move forward with the lease and have Heidi sign it on behalf of CCS.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone have any questions for Rebecca from what's been presented and prepared? All right, seeing none.
So I'm fully supportive of this whole thing. So I'm just really curious, just because I'm not familiar with these kind of leases. So in section or Article 6, it talks about HVAC usage, and do they really pay attention to like the hours of the day that we can use the HVAC and like from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. It just seems very odd to me. So I was like,
Yeah.
Okay, apparently that's a thing that we have fixed office hours, at that rate. But
Yeah, I mean, the building is still like inhabitable during those off hours, but the ability to like set our temperature to like 73 degrees in the winter or something, like our thermostat, and Beth can speak to this a little bit more, having been in these types of situations. Like,
Yeah.
the building
This is very
insulated.
common. This
Yeah.
in office
I don't have a
buildings.
problem with it. I just thought it was
Yeah.
one of those more interesting things than, like, oh, I didn't think that they would actually set something like that in a lease. So
My dad is, or was before he retired, like a building engineer and like managed HVAC systems. And it was like, oh yeah, we like do the stuff, like we do the work off hours, we do these things. So
Does he do any
I agree.
consulting work?
No, but my cousin will, if you need.
Trying to think how I could
Absolutely.
apply that to maybe my staff wanting to have the office open at all kinds of different hours. They want to get here as early as possible. Like maybe I need to start like charging like cookies or I don't know, something like, you know, if they want to be here early. I'm trying to figure out how I could work that in. So
You
like,
just
well, this
don't
is
turn
very
that
standard, this is
temperature up.
standard, you know, as a landlord. So this is kind of a thing.
Yeah,
I'm
80
sorry. I
degrees in
realize
the
this is also
summer.
being recorded, so maybe I need to be careful making that was a total joke, everybody, just being very clear. So,
Beth, please note that in the minutes.
Done.
All right,
but no,
got
I'm
it.
100%, I'm very supportive of this. So
Any other questions before we move forward? All right,
We need
then
a motion.
yeah, I'll move approval of the lease as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Beth?
Davis,
Yes.
Dilger,
Yes.
Leffler,
Yes.
McNulty,
Yes.
Rosenthal,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
and Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Motion carries. Rebecca, anything else about, so the lease is done. We'll sign all the things after the meeting. Thank you for all of the work that you've put into getting us to where we are now. At this point, do you have any further updates on the project that you want to talk about? This is enough to be getting on with, but
Yeah, I will just say that Beth is the driver of this project and I'm along for the ride. So props to Beth for everything on this. After this meeting, Beth is going to, we've already technically given notice to the landlord that we're vacating at the end of our lease and not renewing, but we're going to do it again, just so we have it again. And we have a meeting set up. I don't think it was set up when I wrote the package. Oh, we do. On February 22nd, Deborah, Marson, Beth, and I are going back to the building. So Deborah actually hasn't been in the building yet. So she'll be able to scope out the training spaces. Rachel had previously gone on behalf of member services. And we'll start talking about like finishes for the work that they're going to do in this space and just start dotting some more I's and crossing the T's. So it feels really real. And I think we're really excited. So thanks for your support with this.
that's fantastic. Anything else on the office move, gang? We can move on then. Okay, to new and potential members. I'll turn it right back over to Rebecca.
So everything is squared away with Mount Prospect for now. I will be removing them as an agenda item until we get closer to November of this year when they'll come back in and start the onboarding process. As far as Warren Newport goes, everything is going really well. Mieko is leading the charge on this. They are having a project team orientation later today, so I'm excited to hear how that goes. I am waiting for an update on the pricing from Innovative to include weekend work. We had Labor Day go lives previously that seemed to work really well with just downtime for member libraries. So after talking with Warren Newport and narrowing down their preferred go live, we're going to add that back into the contract. But we're also in the midst, and this is, I guess, more for Innovative updates, of transitioning from Carrie Pearson as our sales rep to Dean Cooper. So we have a meeting with them set up, I believe, next week. So we'll cover that with them. And then after this meeting, I am headed out to Waukegan to meet with Tiffany and a couple members of their team to talk about CCS. And then I've been emailing with the IT manager at Vernon, and I believe, Brian, you've been in touch with the director at Vernon as well, and I've shared the Mount Prospect consortium recommendation packet with them. So nothing formal from either of these libraries yet, just inquiring about CCS and pricing and what a project looks like and all of those things.
Fantastic. Any questions for Rebecca on our membership? All right, seeing none, let's move on to ePay setup and update. And again, back to Rebecca.
Still me, sorry, everyone. So per your packet, Comprise has said that they're gonna do a 6-month renewal for us, and I was supposed to have an update on Monday. I don't, so I will follow up with them again. An important correction that I need to make, and that I want to just confirm is not going to be a problem. During the session and during my testing, by the session, I mean the ePay demo on February 1st, I was like, oh, this is so great. It doesn't matter who the patron is. They can always see the payment options. This is better than the Comprise integration. It's not. It's the same as the Comprise integration would have been if we had used it. You'll know, like when we pay with Comprise right now, you click a link that says pay now, and then you log into a separate interface to like see your fines and pay. And that was a workaround, so anyone could pay at any library without excluding non-CCS patrons, basically. So with ePay, they don't have that workaround, which we thought, and then I tested and I was like, no, that's not how it is. It's great, it's perfect. So if a library chooses not to enable ePay or another option from the list of options that we sent out, including Comprise, their users will not be able to pay fines online, period, at any library. They can pay fines with a credit card in person if a library offers that option, or in with ePay can do like a manual payment with ePay and then update their account, but they won't be able to pay online through PowerPack unless unless their library has e-commerce enabled. That could be if, let's say your library takes in $100 a year in e-commerce payments. If you're like, I just don't care about that $100, but I don't want people to be mad, we can pop the CCS ePay up on your account and we can collect those payments for you. We're just not going to go through the accounting process of like determining whose is whose and sending it back. So the hiccup with this error that I made is that non-CCS patrons have to pay CCS. I had thought like, oh, if they're at Highland Park, they'll just pay the Highland Park like through ePay, but they have to pay CCS, which is what we had thought originally. In the packet, I say their total payments through API payment or through SIP payments was $14,000 last year. So it's non-CCS patrons paying via credit card. Upon further research, I think that's including self-check payments, and the actual amount is between like $4,000 and $7,000, depending on how we count it. So it's a pretty small amount of money overall. So an additional point of clarification, like if a Chicago Public Library patron walks into Morton Grove and is like, I want to pay $50 to replace this fancy book that I borrowed, Morton Grove doesn't have to say, okay, go over there to the online catalog and pay CCS via ePay. If Morton Grove just like has a tablet or anything, you don't need any special software, you can take a $50 payment from ePay from that patron and then manually apply it to the patron's account, just like some libraries are already doing with ePay because it's not integrated. So for someone standing in your library, you can always take a payment from them if they're interacting with a staff member. So, you know, I would recommend that all libraries use their own e-commerce solution because it'll provide the best service to your patrons, and that if you want to offer refunds and voids, you can do so. You'll keep most of your money except for, again, these non-CCS patrons. ePay is a very low cost solution. However, if a library chooses not to, since it's not a requirement from governing board, and this is a section that I haven't put out to the membership yet because I wanted to get some feedback. If the library chooses not to offer any online payments, or to manage their own online payments. They have what I think are two options. One is to enable CCS ePay in their Power Pack. So their patrons' payments would go to ePay in addition to non-CCS patrons. That would continue to provide the online payment service to their patron. It would also provide service for non-local patrons who may be using their Power Pack, and the system will automatically direct like that Wilmette patron to the Wilmette payment system, or the Palatine patron to the Palatine patron system, if like Fremont's not in it for e-content or for e-commerce. Option B, if they're just like, no, we don't want any online payments in our catalog. We don't want to redirect anyone anywhere. We don't want anything. I would strongly recommend that those libraries enable branch switching in their pack, which is the option for patrons to go like from the Fremont pack to the Palatine pack using a dropdown. Right now, that's an optional feature. Many of our libraries have it turned on. Many of our libraries have it turned off. But if you don't offer online payments, your patrons won't be able to pay at anyone else's Power Pack. But if another patron's at your Power Pack, like how come I can't pay? That branch switching will just make it easier for them to get to their home library in order to pay, which they would have to do. Because of the way Power Pack works, the cookies are like very sticky. And if you're at a site that doesn't have branch switching turned on, it's really hard to get to your home library without doing a whole rigmarole of things. So those are my recommendations. And I want to send them out to all of LibAdmin and to CCS News, but I wanted to give this group the opportunity to kind of like workshop them, give me any feedback on that. And again, that's in your packet on pages 16 and 17.
Okay. Please just jump in with thoughts or questions for Rebecca. I think it was very clear. I shared it with my team who've been sifting through this. This is a very, like, it seems like it would be the simple thing. It's this murky, complicated thing, at least that's been my experience. So thank you for slogging through it for us. If there aren't any questions or suggestions about this, then Rebecca would go ahead and share that with the larger team.
I am curious, how many libraries are there anybody out there that just has no intent of offering an online e-payment of any type?
We're considering, because we've lost so much money. We're waiting to see what ePay would cost, so.
I mean, I'm kind of with Diane. We took in so little money this way that, I mean, we're paying kind of through the nose a little bit for it. So I would like to offer that. So CCS giving us that option that we can still do that is probably what we'll do. But if not, we probably would have moved to not having any online payments because it just was used so infrequently for us.
Well, so with ePay, you don't pay anything unless it gets used. So if it does get used, you can pass on the payment to the patron at like dollar increments, or you absorb it. So instead of getting $1, you get 97.5 cents. So it won't cost you anything to just provide it through the ePay portal, FYI.
Deborah and Beth and I did have a call with ePay yesterday. CCS got our first like fee analysis statements from the testing that we've done. And just based on all of the challenges libraries have had with TSIS, and again, not having a TSIS account, not really being able to help. We've got our ePay account now, and we sat down with them. We're like, all right, take us through this statement. Like, where are these fees coming from? How does it work? So I'm working on a little write-up for our website on that as well. Again, we only had like 6 transactions on our account from testing, so it's not a true picture, but I do have some sample statements from Pinnacle as well. I'm assuming Paul would not mind if I shared them, but I can confirm with Paul and pass them along to like Diane and Pam or anyone else, or like white them out and use them as examples. But Scott is correct. I have a hard time thinking about like like, I just think it's impossible that you'd end up with ePay paying more than you're taking in because there are no monthly fees if you're using one of the two options that will get you that $10 credit. Beth, if you could enable screen sharing for me.
Sorry, I thought I did. That was
okay.
probably when
Yeah.
I was in the wrong meeting.
It was an exciting morning. So I'm working on that piece, which is like, what does the statement look like? And like, what am I supposed to do with this? And then the other component that I am working on, thank you, Beth. This is just, obviously there are no answers on this, but I'm working on a Q&A page for our documentation. So I'm happy at any time to update this with additional questions. But before I answer these and publish this list, does anyone on executive committee have questions that they would want to add? And I literally finished this draft this morning, so I apologize it wasn't in here for review.
Okay, I think, looks like we're in good shape then. Rebecca, thank you.
It looks very thorough.
I like how you incorporated all the questions that came up during the training class that CCS offered last week. That's perfect.
Yeah, dig in that transcript for sure. Okay, so we will keep moving forward on this. I am thinking we do have some libraries that are kind of set up, and if they are ready to go, ePay is ready to go. So I will try to coordinate with them, perhaps like a centralized rollout date, because it will change, like it could potentially change for patrons that are not their own as well. Just so we can put in CCS news, like these libraries are going live with ePay on X date. So everyone is aware. And I will continue to work with our friend Don over at Comprise and keep everyone posted on that. Thank you for your feedback.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on then to innovative updates. And again, back to Rebecca.
We will have more information, but we have a non-optional server migration coming up. So we're going to have to move the training server and production server from, currently it's in Amazon Web Services. It is going to be moved to kind of a Clarivate Ex Libris something, giant cloud. There's a couple of hiccups with this. One is that it essentially requires like a full data load. Like it'll take, they're estimating right now like 20 hours of downtime, which is a lot. And then there will be some library staff action that has to happen specifically from IT. All your remote desktop connections are going to have to be reset. And then new IP addresses are going to have to be given to all of your third-party connecting tools. So we are working with Innovative to have to like go through the full checklist to make sure we have full information before we start emailing it out to staff on what they're going to have to do. We are anticipating the training server migration, so training will be down, but production will not be impacted. That'll be during the day, Tuesday, March 8th. And then we are looking at the weekend of Easter to do the production server migration. So we would start Saturday evening and run through Sunday, most likely, and then be back up Monday morning. Not all of our libraries are closed on Easter, so there will be downtime there will be packed downtime for everyone and third-party tool authentication downtime for everyone. But there will be some libraries that need to use offline for, a full business day while this happens. So we are working to get these details clarified so we can get this information out more widely. But I want to be able to have, and Deborah wants to have like kind of the full set of information before we're system statusing left and right. So it's kind of a big deal. But we've handled downtime for library ads that have been a lot longer than this. It'll be planned, we'll be able to communicate ahead of time. So I know your staff will handle it like champs. And we'll work to minimize the impact on libraries.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Does anyone have any questions or comments? All right, very thorough, both in the written packet and your summary. Thank you, Rebecca. So we'll move on to the CCS Governing Board and Executive Board meeting schedule for fiscal year 23-24. It's on pages 18 and 19 of the packet. And just really briefly, Rebecca went through this with me, and she did a great job of describing it in the packet on the benefits of option 1. And I didn't see any reason not to move forward with her recommendation, but wanted to hear from obviously the rest of executive committee about this. So basically we changed the executive committee meetings would follow on the off months, but the governing committee quarterly meetings would shift a month. Does anyone need any additional information? Should we ask Rebecca to talk us through it, or does it feel like we're in a good place? All right, I see smiles. So the potential motion was to approve option 1 as a governance meeting calendar for fiscal year ending in 2024.
This is Jeannie. I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeannie.
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. And Beth, the vote, please.
Davis,
Yes.
Dilger,
Yes.
Leffler,
Yes.
McNulty,
Yes.
Rosenthal,
Yes.
Shepherd,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. All right, next on the agenda, the president's report. This is where we thought it'd be a good point to call to the executive committee's attention. If you didn't already know that the disaster proclamation for the state of Illinois will end in May. So the schedule that we just approved would include all of the governing committee meetings, governing board meetings happening in person at CCS as noted. So we were prepared for this eventuality. I'm feeling pretty good that we're there. Does anyone have any questions or comments about this, including you, Rebecca, if there's anything you'd add?
I'm curious why we as an executive committee are allowed to still meet virtually.
So I'm going to ask Rebecca to wade through this one, please.
Yeah. Cool note, Jeannie. Governing board previously, here we go.
The transparency practices?
Yes, previously approved meeting transparency practices. So per our bylaws, executive committee is able to set rules for our governance, executive committee is able to set rules for like ourselves. They just have to be approved by governing board. So governing board.
Are you wanting to
Governance
share?
committees. It's right here at the top.
I guess I have seen those. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to, I love all you guys, but I don't know that I need to see you in person every month. But when I was in Swan's attorney at the time had determined that Swan was subject to Open Meetings Act. And therefore, any committee of the full board was also subject to Open Meetings Act. So I don't know if we have a different legal opinion, which I'm happy to accept.
So we don't have a different legal opinion. The legal opinion, and I do have I just stopped my recording. That's okay. Beth has her recording still going. I meant to stop my screen share, which doesn't appear to be sharing anyway. We have
want
the
me to
same
try,
legal
Rebecca?
opinion. It's
Rebecca?
okay. I don't think that
Okay,
I don't think we need to share it unless folks want to read it more thoroughly. The legal opinion essentially is like, yeah, maybe, probably, but it's not sure. We're not sure. And we have submitted to, and by we, I mean consortia. I don't know if this was SWAN or CCS or everyone together. We have submitted to the Public Access Counselor for a specific opinion about our agencies, and they have declined to rule. They have declined to say anything. So given that information, and again, like today's meeting at 33 minutes so far is the longest executive committee we've had in some time. So as a balance and a commitment to transparency, we adopted these meeting transparency practices. So if someone, took issue with the way that we were operating, we would revisit and say, okay, maybe we need to meet in person. From the perspective of PPC, there are several bills being introduced about remote meetings. But again, those are not laws at this time, but it is an issue that everyone's kind of dealing with. We are in this sort of gray area. So we're sticking with the gray area, but working to be as transparent as possible and accessible as possible within that gray area.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I apologize if you've all had that conversation before Palatine joined CCS, and I'm maybe the only one who wasn't aware of that. But I appreciate that we've given some thought to this, and I'm happy to
I think
continue.
it's worth revisiting regularly to see if we're still on the same page about these things. So thanks for bringing it up.
yeah.
So this is, I'm sorry, this is a matter of choice and convenience. Really, right? Because we could also choose to meet in person if we all really wanted to. There's nothing precluding us from doing that. But the ease of meeting for brief, half hour to 45-minute meetings, if we're allowed to do it remotely, I guess that's cool. I like to get together as well, but we have governing board for that.
Yeah,
So
it seemed,
I support it.
it seemed like a good, solid approach, given the legal opinion and the decline to make a ruling that the PAC provided. So so with the end of the declaration, the disaster proclamation, we're back to the governing board meetings being in person. And then per our transparency procedures as an institution, our executive committee meetings will continue virtually per the schedule. And then, should we receive any feedback, it can come back for immediate discussion at the next meeting. Okay.
I would also say our current office is kind of a bummer, and I really appreciate Heidi and Lauren taking alternating coming in to sign checks. Anyone is also welcome to attend in person if you so choose, especially when we're in our new office and it's less of a bummer.
I know, it doesn't feel like a big bummer. I like being
We're such an
somewhere.
exciting draw to see you.
Oh, wow. You guys are the best. All right, well, thank you. I don't have any further report. If there's any further discussion about this, let's move. If not, all right, then we'll move on to our secretary report, please.
No report.
Thank you, Diane. And our treasurer report.
The Budget and Finance Committee met. We have draft minutes are included in here, but the committee hasn't. We'll review them next time. So yeah, I was delighted the just initial report that the budget that Rebecca has put together is projecting no increase in member fees. So that's always a lovely, lovely thing to see. So thank you for that hard work, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the report included in the packet on committees and groups. Is there anything further to add or any questions?
Well, nothing to add.
All right. Looking good. Well, and thank you also, Rebecca, for your executive director's report. Same question. Any questions or anything to add?
Nothing to add.
All right, you take good care of us. I think we think we're in really good shape. If there's no further business. Okay, then I will adjourn the meeting if there's no opposition at 10:37 a.m. Seeing none, we're adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.